Hey, Chef Ro here. Today we're going to talk about Swiss meringue. Now there's three kinds of meringues and I have videos on all three. There's French, which is the easiest, but you have to cook it and it's not very stable. You have Italian, which is extremely stable, but a little bit scary because you have to boil sugar to softball stage and then pour it down the side of the mixer bowl while it's running and hope that you don't spray yourself with basically molten sugar. Delicious, but a little bit scary. Okay? Swiss meringue is the perfect balance between the two. You cook the egg whites and the sugar together over a double boiler, which makes it a much more stable meringue. So it does not have to be baked, but it can in fact be baked into a crispy cookie or something like that if you so choose. Okay? Now you're going to need a double boiler. You don't need a fancy actual double boiler. You need a saucepan with about an inch of water in it. But the key is that your bowl can't touch the water. So if you have a very narrow saucepan, you can use the bowl of your stand mixer and just put the sugar and the egg whites straight in there and go over the saucepan. But most people don't have that really narrow saucepan. So if your saucepans are only bigger, your mixer bowl is going to, with the narrow bottom, it's going to touch the water. So you're going to have to use a different bowl, preferably metal of some sort. Stainless steel is best because it'll go faster. You'll use a stainless steel bowl over the pot of simmering water and then just scrape the combined and cooked egg whites and sugar into the bowl. Now because you are cooking them and that stabilizes the egg whites and the sugar together, you don't necessarily need a pinch of cream of tartar. Some people still do it, but it's really unnecessary. This is an extremely stable meringue. Like I said, great topping for lemon meringue pie. Also makes my personal favorite buttercream base. All you do is add butter to a Swiss meringue and you have Swiss buttercream. Delightful. Okay, I'm going to show you how we make it. So in my bowl here, you can see that I have egg whites and sugar. I have my mixer bowl on a saucepan because it's small enough that the bowl won't touch the water. You need about an inch of water here in the bottom like this, as long as your bowl doesn't touch it. If your bowl is touching the water, then you need to get either a smaller saucepan or a different bowl, and you'll have to scrape it into the mixer bowl later. Now you're going to whisk the sugar and the egg whites together. You don't have to do this fast or extensively. You're just trying to mix it together. You can see it's just mixed together. And you want to keep it stirring a little bit so that the egg whites don't scramble. And you also want to make sure that you do scrape the sides of the bowl because you've got sugar there and you don't want the sugar to crystallize. So all you're going to do here is just keep whisking. The higher your heat, the more you're going to have to whisk. If you don't want to sit and babysit it, you have to turn it down to an extremely low heat. And you may want to be careful because you're probably going to at some point need a hot pad. The bowl will get hot sitting here on the heat. And like I said, make sure you scrape those sides so that there's no crystallized sugar that's going to happen. Okay, so I'm just going to keep whisking this and I'm going to show you when we're ready to check it and how you do that so that we can cook these whites and sugar together. So my egg whites have gotten to the point where they need to be. I've continually whisked this as I was letting the heat simmer. I made sure that I was scraping the sides the entire time. I just want to make sure that the egg whites are warm and the sugar is dissolved. You don't want to let it get too hot because then the egg whites will scramble on you, okay? And we don't want scrambled eggs. We're making meringue, not an omelet. So you just whisk constantly, scraping those edges, and then I'm going to show you the best way to check it. And unfortunately, it means that your hands are going to get a little bit dirty, but I promise you that they'll wash. And you can see in here that I've been scraping the sides the whole time. It's nice and white. Now, if you feel it like this, you can see there's no grittiness left to it, and the egg whites are warm to the touch. That means it's done. Now we're going to take that off the pan of water. We're going to put it on our stand mixer, and we are going to flip it on at completely high speed until it forms a nice thick meringue. Okay, our meringue is ready, and there's a couple of different ways I know that. Number one, you can tell by looking at it that it's a nice, thick, glossy meringue, and also it has formed stiff peaks. But the key is with this one that you need to get the egg whites to cool. This is often the basis for a buttercream frosting, which is my personal favorite, or some other thing where heat will be a problem. So you need to check the bowl and make sure that there is no heat left on the bowl that would do something like melt the butter. And all you do is just put your hand down here at the bottom, just like this. Make sure at the bottom of the bowl where the egg whites are that it is not warm enough to do something like melt butter. When it is cool enough to the touch, then you know it is ready. And almost always when it is that cool, you're also going to have stiff peaks. And you're going to check it just like any other meringue. If you flip it, the gravity is going to do you more harm than good. It's going to think that it's going to be a medium peak. Whereas if we do it nice and slow in the bowl, you can see in the bowl that I've got my stiff peaks. So now my meringue is ready to go. Now you know how to make Swiss buttercream. Which one of the three is your favorite?